Correct. Alrighty. So, a quick reminder before we get started for today, we are now only doing office hours on Wednesday nights, and no longer doing the Saturday morning sessions. Simply because my schedule's gotten way too busy, and I don't have the time to do everything and have a take care of my everything else outside of BrightInvestor while still doing Saturday mornings. So, for the time being, Wednesday evenings will be the office hours that we have going forward. Just a quick reminder, so I got some emails about that over the weekend. Uh, Next, I'm gonna go ahead and announce some new features. So the team has been we making a lot of cool progress with some new things here. I want to go ahead and run you through them. One, we have added a little bit of muffled sounds on the sound. Okay, one second. Let's see here. Hold on. Can't hear
Now
you.
it's yeah, now it's muted.
That's down. How about now? Is that all right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you, but it's still kind of
All right.
got that muted sound or the muffled sound. But I guess we can just kind of go with it if
Okay.
that's the
Sorry
best you
about
can
that.
do.
For right now, it's the best I can do. So, quick note: we have added in a building or this the new version should be live next week. We'll test. You guys know how that goes. Building square foot filter has been added, so you can now search for properties based on the square footage. Um, you now have the new mobile friendly reports. So the first version, the mobile friendly reports, is going live. So they were always able to be opened on their phone, but it wasn't convenient. Now you'll be able to actually scroll through and have almost like a mobile design report system, which is great. The search history is going live. So every time you search for an address, it will now remind you of the last like 5 you searched for and prompt you for those. We've added in smart boundaries, which we're really excited about. Smart boundaries are basically where when you do a search for something that doesn't yield a specific result, BrightInvestor will give you a specific message saying, hey, try this instead, and guide you to the right answer instead of just giving you an error message. We've also added a smart property identification. So what that means is now if a property says 2 units and it'll tell you it's a duplex, big feature, big feature out there. You can now hide rent and sales comps that you don't want people to see. So you always were able to unselect them so they didn't impact the math. Now you can actually turn them off from reports and get rid of them completely. And just in case you don't want, if you're working with an investor or a client or what have you, and you don't want to have that information there, you can now turn them off completely. Um, Next, we have a whole new set of smart errors. So we talked a little about this already, but now if ever something happens in BrightInvestor and there's like an error or try this, it now will recognize exactly what you did, give you a specific message about what you should try to do to fix the problem directly inside of BrightInvestor as a support. It will also give you now messages when you do something right. So if you do something and you click a button, it'll make sure it gives you a success message to let you know that the right thing has been done. We added a building square foot and a lot square footage maximum. We also made this is a big one as well, rent growth. Rent growth city by zip code was only covering the map in one color and just showing you that month's rent. Now, rent growth over time, when you hover over the zip codes, will be a lot like appreciation data, where it shows you what was the rent before, what was the rent now, and what's the percent growth for every specific zip code in the entire city. And you'll now have a rent growth table on the sidebar as well. So you'll be able to filter through what zip codes have seen the highest rent growth. And then we are adding in smart skip tracing counting for bulk lists. So it will prompt you to buy new credits if you don't have enough while you're mid download. So all of that is being added. It should be going out in this next release, which we're excited about. Then a couple bugs you've already fixed. Chester, I'm happy to report that we did push a fix that fixed the address search bug where you typed in one address, different address would show up. So we pushed that over a couple of days ago. We're
Nice.
we're fixing a couple other issues that people have noted about like some of the property details, some of those sentences aren't capitalized. They're supposed to be information like sometimes that if you do a certain search for a zip code, it will show gray instead of green or red based on its improvement. So we're increasing that as well. So you guys should see about 17 property and feature improvements and about 9 bugs and tweaks that have been launched to this new version going out in addition. And of course, the big feature that we haven't touched on yet is the CRM integration. The team let me know that they are done, virtually done with the system this week. We're going into live testing right now, just making sure everything's done. The reason the CRM has taken longer than I wanted, I want everything done immediately, is because we have specifically built the CRM connection in a way where you guys don't have to go in and custom connect and custom code your integrations. So the CRM is designed to be able to simply say, do you have a CRM you want to connect with? Yes. Okay, great. Log into it. Click a button. Awesome. It's connected. So we have basically pre-coded for you the CRM connection, so it doesn't have to take a lot of your manpower to do. But that is the next big features going out in addition to the 17 other improvements that I've mentioned. And funnily enough, the next 17 we're working on include a couple sneak peeks like the widget, but also we're adding in even more rent comps, and we're adding in the ability to see days on market for rentals. So you'll see how long properties have been taking to rent before they actually got leased out. And we'll be able to start adding and deleting sales and rent comps to this list if there's one you want to add in there intentionally. So those are the things that are coming online. Wanted to go ahead and let you guys know that we're still plugging away over here when it comes to new features and new improvements and new requests. So, of course, if you have anything that you want me to know about, feel free to email me to knock@brightinvestor.com. Just want to make sure I give you that update on all the stuff that we have that we're working on for the team, for you guys. And we are continuing to move in shape. So that is all the announcements I have right now. For BrightInvestor, for the features that are coming out, for upgrades, for office hours. I think that's pretty much everything that we got going on here for the time being. Yeah, I think that's it. So now we'll go ahead and open the floor open for questions, comments, and concerns, or anything you guys want some support with or some assistance with.
Donato, so this might sound like a little bit of a stretch. I'm gonna ask anyway, so
Chester, what have you not asked me a stretch one? Let's be honest about this. Let's be honest.
Okay. All right. So let me lay a little bit of background first, and then I will give you the ask. So
Okay.
I was on a call last night with some fellow investors. I know Jason and Santiago probably know. It's Dion McNeely from I don't know if you guys watch YouTube, but he's Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And he had on a multifamily investor. His name is Christian. I don't know why. Osgood. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, he had a presentation and he was kind of going over like, hey, here's the deal about multifamily. Here's how it's different from single and multifamily rentals. And he showed us using Google Maps, I think it was, how to like look at various properties. So, first thing that instantly came to mind was BrightInvestor, because I'm like, all right, well, Google does some stuff, but BrightInvestor does a lot more. So, bridge the story. Here's the question. Is there a way, and like I said, this might be a little bit audacious because it might be dependent, because I'm thinking about two different sort of major commercial areas in like, large multifamily and commercial office buildings. Now,
Okay.
last night's presentation was more about large multifamily, so the 5+ or 5 units and up. But could this also, what I'm about to ask, apply to like commercial office space as well? That is there a way that we could tweak or fine tune or add in, for lack of a better phrase, like searches that are going to focus like specifically, like what's a good way that I'm trying to put it? Like like the ridiculously large, like I'm thinking, like for example, like really really big, like 40-50 unit apartment buildings, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And why I
So
was thinking about it like that was like, you know, the frequency, I guess, of them, like, of course, comparative to uh small multifamily or to single family, it's probably going to be like, significantly orders of magnitude less. But that's why I was just kind of thinking, like, is that something where we can kind of like make tweaks specific, like how we've been customizing it for like single family, and then 2 through 4 units for that?
yeah.
Because I know we've done that like for some like larger numbers, but like, I'll stop talking because I'm just like, that's kind of the train of thought. But
So the short answer is yes. So BrightInvestor does have data sparsely for a large scale apartment complexes. You can find the properties, you can look them up, but they're not going to have all typically the most accurate square footage, the unit count, or the very, very large things. It's not how it's built for. But um, the short answer is yes. The data sets do exist, and it is possible to incorporate more commercial data into BrightInvestor. That can be done.
okay.
What that looks like is a partnership with companies like uh, Crexi, or was it Compstack, or Reonomy, or maybe not CoStar. They don't have to play nice people. Yardi Matrix, Moody's, and we go to these larger vendors of commercial data, and we create partnerships to bring that information into BrightInvestor. Now, about a year and a half ago, I ran the gamut or ran the gauntlet with those folks, and I sat down with each of them and I asked what's possible.
Mhm.
All but one said kick rocks, but we were also a smaller company at that point in time on the data that we had available. One of them said they would be open to working with us. Um,
Okay.
so it can be done. The issue is one, it's a build out, and there are costs associated with onboarding that kind of data sets. But uh, I will tell you here that my intent for BrightInvestor long form, right, long form in BrightInvestor, is to eventually create a more commercial facing product, whether that's the same as BrightInvestor as it currently exists today, or a separate product that is
Okay.
geared towards residential commercial. So, geared towards real estate commercial. I do plan to go that direction and have at least some more data types. So things to include like vacancy rates, cap rates for self-storage, industrial,
Nice.
warehouse, medical,
That's exact
multifamily.
bingo. Okay, now you're speaking my language,
So
because that was one of the things I was going to ask
yeah,
about was self-storage. So didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt, but yes, yeah,
yeah,
definitely
you're
on that
good.
line.
So I'd like to do that. It takes a little bit, it takes growing a little bit bigger than we are right now to handle that. But long term, I'd like to be able to do so because eventually, BrightInvestor should be the only place you need to go for real estate information. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty confident, I don't want to become a CRM, so we're going to continue to partner with great CRM companies. Everyone can use the one they like the most. We are, going to likely pursue that direct mail component for folks as well if they want to go that direction and offer that in. Um, but we want to continue to be the best front end part of the system for finding opportunities, analyzing opportunities wherever they may be in one place. So it makes sense for us to do that segment down the line.
Okay. Yeah, and it so I'll ask this in terms of do you think feasibility standpoint, would it make more sense to do a maybe trial run? Because again, like you said, much bigger now, much more built out concept for BrightInvestor. Do you think that's something that maybe even as like a trial run, that whichever one of your large scale commercial partners was kind of thinking of partnering to maybe do like a little bit of a trial run to see how well it would work within Bright Investor as is versus doing like a standalone product.
Yeah, so we could definitely do a potential like trial run with some folks to see what could make the most sense. We're gonna have to see where they go, but we can always talk about that offline too, and
Okay.
let you know where those things work.
Okay. So like I said, I know it was a little bit of an ask, but I figured I was like, at least ask to see what, what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you guys don't ask for stuff, then I'm kind of flying blind. So the more things you can ask for, the better. And it forces me to go, okay, let's see how I can do that. So that's what I need to hear. Okay. But thank you.
Good
Now, let
stuff.
me see. Question. You have a question from Anne. I have a question regarding how to best assess comps for flips. Yeah, Anne, go ahead.
Um, yeah, because I'm starting to use the system a little bit more right now, and I talked to you offline for the onboarding, and I'm looking at flips right now, and I was just putting in some properties that I was looking at, or just to practice a little bit, and I was
Yeah.
having a hard time with. I mean, I can give you an address, for example, and we can
Yeah.
look at it if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
Yeah.
This one's in Columbus, and it's 3412 Westerville Woods Drive.
Westville.
Westerville,
West.
Westerville in one word, WES. No, I'll put it in
Okay. Yeah, Westerville Woods Drive.
yeah, in Columbus.
Okay.
And then when I
Got
look
it.
at it, okay, so when I look at it, I think they were asking, I don't have the actual what they were asking right now. I just no space. But anyway, if you open the property details on it, it gives you an estimated value of 323,000.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It's sold. It looks like I don't know whether it's even available anymore, but anyway, but then I think the asking price was like 260 or something. So when I look at that and the estimated value, is that based? It's not because right investors that doesn't know the condition of the property. So is it just based on comps? Like that would be more like
Uh,
an ARV estimated value? What
sure.
does it really? I get a little confused about what it represents, so that I can trust. Because I'm trying to use it. It's like, well, is this going to work or not? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and walk this through for a second. So first and
okay.
foremost, open the property up. I'm going to open up a Zillow listing, check it out. So 3-bed, 2-bath, 1656. 3-bed, 2-bath. We're calling it 1207. See what they're including. See with Columbus, when it states like this, we never know if they're including finished attic space or not, which is always a fun game. Oh yeah, so they're including a finished basement right there. That's why. Okay, so they're including a finished basement in their per square foot analysis to boost the valuation. Okay, so just to be that's for funsies, let's go ahead and I'll play their game and I'm going to adjust the square foot to 1656, even though it's not true. They're including a finished basement, incorrectly in my opinion. Right? That's why this skews so quick. Yeah. I know I'm not going to do that. I'm not gonna play their game. Okay. So the way that BrightInvestor works, right, is the very first thing that we do is we run an ABM. So this is a very complicated backend algorithm that takes into effect local market comps, square footage, bedroom, bathroom, other assets in the area, MLS, and off-market county records. And this runs an analysis on all the things considered, what the property's estimated value is on today. You're correct. This value does not know the current property's condition on the inside. So what we then back that up with is sales comps. What our sales comps are going to do is take every property that has been sold recently in this area and then give us our price per square foot. Now we can filter these by bed and bath and square footage. And what we're doing here is we're taking the square footage of all of these assets and then getting an average price per square foot and multiplying it by the property's actual square footage. So in this case, when the average property square foot is $269, to multiply by the 1207, you get $324,000. So in this case, the property's value and estimated property value are almost dead on exactly next to each other. Now, to make me feel more comfortable about this, what I'm going to do is say, you know what, I want to go see other properties that have sold really, really recently. So like so I'm going to go look for properties that are similar. I'm going to say, show me properties that sold recently, like this one, for example. Like this property, same number of beds, same number of baths, a little bit smaller, sold for about 312 a foot, and it's about 10 years older. Okay, let's go check that property out. When I check this property out, right, and I open up the photos, I see it has a nice backyard. The interior is a little outdated, but the flooring looks good, the paint looks good, the lighting looks good. It's been well staged, right? That kitchen, that is new. So, okay, this is the flipped property, right? All new cabinets, all new hardware, black appliance package, all new gold or brass goose sink faucet, kitchen tile backsplash. This might not be flipped. If it is flipped, it's a very good stage. Okay, but this is an old, outdated island. This probably isn't flipped. This is probably an owner-occupant house that's been lived in for a while. They've slowly
Yeah,
renovated it.
this doesn't look like a flip. Yeah.
It's not a flip. That island tells me everything I need to know. That's not a flip. But we can see that in this area, right, this level of condition of a property sold for $340,000, right? Again, finished basement, it's carpeted, decent condition, not brand new. That paint that's a choice. Right, all of those things. And that property, we know from BrightInvestor and double checking online, right, sold for 340. So when we know that that property sold for 340, it's less than half a mile away, and it's relatively the same mass, it's relatively similar, we can take a look at this and get an idea of how much this property is actually worth. Now, the last thing we can do is come to our market trends. Now, market trends is going to tell us what are most properties selling for on a per square foot basis currently. So we can take that per square foot basis to get an idea of what's going on relative to this asset. So because we know, right, and because we know that some assets here are including finished basement space and some assets aren't in square footage, we have to be a little bit more intuitive when it comes to our comment process. For example, right, this asset right here also included a let's see here, our basement, yeah, finished lower level. So they're including when they're listing this square footage, they're not listing the actual county record official square footage. They're including the additional square footage on their basement in order to increase the valuation. So they're calling this 1454. BI called this approximately 144. So I come in here and I say, okay, great. What happens if I change this to a 1454? Edit that. Now I go to 224 a foot. Do you see how that changed?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, even at that valuation, right, even with the finished square footage, we're at $224 a foot. Okay. Now, let's say I take the exact same approach and I apply it to your asset, right? And they wanted to make it 1656. Great. I'll play that game. 1656 in this asset. That would have meant that they were selling for they sold this asset for what was that? Whoops, hold on. For 1656, if we take a look at this, the average price per square foot would put the valuation at $440,000, which we know isn't true because the market research in the area is telling us the median home price is $250,000 and it's down 20% year over year. So when these agents want to keep pushing finished square footage as official square footage and artificially increase home prices, which is why we aren't reporting that. We don't want to be reporting that.
How do you figure out the square footage of the basement in that particular one? You're just estimating, or
generally speaking, what I'm doing is I'm taking the delta between what BrightInvestor is reporting for square footage and what they're reporting as square footage and accounting that for the additional space in the property. Right? That's usually the main delta that we see. So that's what I'm going after. So for this asset, I'm looking at the nearby properties, checking all of this out to tell myself on all these assets. Like here's another one. We'll say this bad boy. This one, BrightInvestor called. Let's see here, three bedroom 1769 for 318. 3 beds, 1769 for 318, the exact same. You know, everything matches up perfectly. No other basement to take care of. We look at the property and check inside. It looks updated. Kitchen, that looks modern. That looks updated. White cabinets, white counters, new appliances. This could be a flip. That lighting, this could absolutely be a flip. And when I look at this asset and what they were trying to sell it for, right? Accurately assesses it as being sold for 173 a foot, which is much closer to the market average of 182 a foot. So if you're telling me the property sold, what I'm going to take a look at is saying, if this property, let's say we took the market average of 182 a foot, 182 a foot multiplied by this property's square footage for 1207, that'd give me a valuation of 220. If I include the finished basement square footage that they're trying to push on me, like 1650 times 182, which is the market average, I get a valuation closer to 300. So what we're trying to do is incorporate as much data as possible to showcase that based on what people are doing, both including and not including properties, by having bigger properties that are less updated and smaller properties that are more updated, on average, we're seeing properties around this one asset sell for about 265 a foot, putting its valuation post-reno around 323. And we use property by property analysis to confirm that. So I wish I could give you a really short, easy answer of X, but I hope that that kind of showcases how we use the tools inside of BrightInvestor to have a more accurate comping process to get an idea of what things are going for, what they're doing, and how it's valued.
So yeah, no, that's really helpful. So that means that if you look at an estimated value, you really have to break it down and really look at the comps and see the condition of the comps to see whether that's in line with what you want it to look like afterwards, right?
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
adjust up or down on the average price per square foot based on what the comps gave you, right? As far
Yeah,
as
exactly.
right.
So like
Okay.
on this one, right? This property was here. 355. So we're calling about 1,200 square feet. They're calling about 1,200 square feet. Perfect for $320,000. Right. This sold less than 4 weeks ago. And that sold for 267 a foot. So when I pull open this property, it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet. I look at it and it looks new lighting, typical gray paint package, right? LVP flooring, carpet.
That's a flip too.
That's a flip. That's either a brand new development or a flip. We know it's not a brand new development, so that's a flip. All new counters, all new appliance packages, still has a sticker on it. All new counters, all new sinks, all new cabinets. And that look at that. That's a new HVAC. That's a new furnace. It looks brand new. And we know that that sold for a rock solid 267 a foot. So in this area, I'm giving you a really rock solid valuation in that number.
Donato, go back to those
Yeah.
cabinets. They don't look new. They actually look painted.
You think these look dated a little bit?
The style of the door, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still white shaker style. They simply went
Yeah.
with one that has a cutout here and a semicircle at the top. That's not as common, but you'll notice that those cabinets and that hardware exactly matches what they did in the kitchen, which means that it wasn't it was a decision to make that all match the same way. Plus,
Right.
when you link it up with that lighting package and that sink and that counter, and the fact that the dishwasher was new as well. I mean, we can even see in the photos, right? They're putting in the new filters for the
Under the
new,
cabinets aren't white.
yeah. Yeah, those aren't white, but the under cabinets, but that's where the washer and dryer is going right here.
Yeah.
But wasn't that a
So like,
popcorn ceiling?
was it or was it no, it's not popcorn, it's stylized.
Right
So-
there. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
No,
hard
yeah,
to
you're
see. I'm
good.
sorry. I'm on my phone.
Oh no, you're totally fine. No, it looks popcorn. When you zoom in though, they did like a styling with it. So they took a paintbrush and they did a texture. They textured the ceiling. That is a brand new Wayfair cabinet. I guarantee you. Those are new doors. Those doors do not look good. Those I think it was a cheap. That's a brand new That's a brand new bathroom, new vanity, new mirrors. So and right there, that property sold for 267 a foot. And if you look at what the valuation is that we gave it, 267 a foot. That is a rock solid comp on this asset.
Okay.
And so if I could buy this for 200 and put 40 into it and sell it for 300, 320, I'll do that all day.
Okay. So, and then when you look at the comps and the square footage for all those different comps, so how, how do I know that some of them do include the basement and some of them do not? Like how?
Yeah, so for a spot like Ohio, what I'm going to do, that's also why we link to these, right? So I can do a quick gut check. So like our square footage was 1150, they're at 1150, right? When I'm looking at this one, okay, great, we're at 1800, 1800. So all I'm doing is when I get to my couple comps that I'm really confident about using, I'm just doing a really quick gut check. 1450, and this one was a 1450, right? So it takes maybe about 2 seconds of property when I get to a composite that I really like to see if they're trying to artificially inflate. This is a 1200, this one's a 1200. So that's how I do it, especially when I get down, once I use the filters to filter down to a composite that I want.
Can you move
And
that
all of
mouse a
those,
little faster, Donato?
oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
You're like on speed,
Sorry.
man. Slow it down.
Sorry, Rich.
So-
Yeah, you're 100% right.
So where does that square footage come from? Where was it reported to for you to? Where did you pick it up from then? Go up
So
in there.
there's county records, public records, tax assessors' offices that all pull that information in. And then
So-
remember when the ML, oh, go ahead.
So some of them would have been reported to the county, including the basement, and some of them would not then?
Yes, because the agents are ultimately in control. As the nature of real estate agents, the agent and the inspector basically have an input when it comes to what gets reported. Right? There's a lot of
Okay.
self-reporting. That's one of the biggest problems with MLSs in the country right now, is because individual agents get lazy and they show up and they say, call it 1200, include the finished basement. That is why the industry is the way that it is, because people don't put in accurate information all the time. So we have to go in and overlook and double check everything.
Okay, well, thanks for explaining that, because that makes a big difference. I mean, you really have to, dig a little bit closer, because I was just looking at it quickly and then it's like some of them just don't add up, but then you realize that's probably why.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's where, oh, sorry, Andy, you have something to say?
No, I was gonna say, is that how you're using overriding data? You know,
Yep.
if I
So
go in there and overwrite data, are you now going back and saying, hey, that wasn't accurate data. This source is sometimes flawed, or how's that work?
exactly. Yeah, so basically we come in here and well, that's why we have all this in here. So whenever you overwrite something, it saves for you personally. And so what we do is we take on our back end or we track like, hey, how many times are people going in and editing things, like tweaking couple square footages here and there, and looking at what geographies that's the most common in. And so if I say, hey, Ohio is just being really crazy right now. I don't know what's going on over there. We go into Ohio, we look at our data sources, we say, hey, look, what can we do here? Because some places there's a lot more stringent laws around what's going on, other places there aren't. So that's where we pay catch up on folks. And that's why we make sure that everything, that's one of the reasons that we route to public facing sites like Realtor or Trulia or Redfin. So you can do a really quick gut check between the two. And then you can very quickly see is there basement or not, and then you can adjust the square footage. So that's why we built BrightInvestor in the way that we did, so that instead of having to manually look up, right, 3 or 4 or 5 different sources, we're plugging them all in right here. So you can say, hold on, these two didn't match or these two didn't match. Let me see why. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone here to identify where is someone trying to lie to me and how can I gut check that? That's why we bring in so many different providers into one place. And honestly, they don't like it that much because I end up pointing out a lot of holes in their data sets and they have to go fix them. Because I'm like, wait a second, you're really wonky over here. Everybody else that I work with is over here. What's going on? And then they go, okay, then I will go fix that. I'm like, you're darn right you will. So
Yeah,
that's
keep-
kind of our
keep
data
them
integrity
honest.
process. Yeah, we have
Keep
to.
them honest. So,
Yeah,
and then
we have
just
to.
one last quick question on the comps, the difference between the ones in red with the little star and the ones in black. What was that
Yep.
again?
So the ones in red mean that it's an estimated sale price, and the official sales price was not reported.
Oh,
So that means that it was
which one was not reported? The ones in red?
the ones in red. Yes. So if you don't want to include the estimates, basically, because we're running an AVM on those, if you don't want to include the estimates, you just turn this off and it won't use any estimates. It'll only use 100% reported
Okay,
leads.
gotcha. Okay, why don't they have the other one? Oh, but it's a reporting state though, isn't it? Like Ohio?
I believe Ohio is for certain ones. I mean, sometimes the prices just get
It's
hidden for a
delayed or
variety of reasons. It could be a lot of things that
Okay.
cause something to not go through. But that's
Okay.
why we include the filter in the top.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful explanation. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't get to get nitty gritty about how all the details that we put into BrightInvestor very often. So that was a very nice niche question that I was able to showcase. Like, here's actually why we did this in this way. So
Okay,
thank you.
I'll think of more for next time.
Perfect. I'll answer Andy's question really quick, and then Orlando will come right to you. Workflow question. Can I not duplicate a tab without logging back in? If you're trying to create I don't think you can.
So
I don't think you
I'm
can.
I'm thinking like I'm working outbound, and then
Yep.
my broker calls, ask a quick question. I just want to duplicate that tab and change the address. Is that every time it was having
Okay.
me like go back? Basically I was having to retype the Bright Investor site and then re-log in. It's
Okay. Yeah.
it's just a pain point. I didn't know if there was a better workflow.
No, yeah, you're totally good. That's like one of our that's one of our in-place restrictions to prevent people from logging in from multiple places at the same time. So like if someone tries
Oh,
to log
gotcha.
like so like if you're logged into your account, someone can't elsewhere log into your account at the same time and use it. It requires you to be in one
Mhm.
place. Um the easiest thing I could do, and I'll say this, I'll talk to the team and see if there's something we can do, maybe some toggle or some feature that we can put together that would allow you to do that to be a little bit
Yeah.
easier. The
Okay.
smoothest thing we could do is if you have a property you're interested in working on, create a Bright report for it. Because what that's
Okay.
going to do is create the whole copy, and then it creates its own tab automatically. So if you've got a property somebody calls you about, just exit out of this, look at the property address, work on it, flip open a Bright report, file it away. Because the way that BrightInvestor works is that once you do work on a property, it saves your progress. So it remembers the notes you've taken, it remembers the comps you've done, it remembers the deal analysis, it remembers all those things. So
Yeah.
we changed that. So
Yeah,
that's
see, I'm more exporting, well, right now, copying data, hopefully eventually exporting, and then working
yep.
the data in my CRM. And
Okay.
then I'm going, somebody makes a call like, hey, I need this information. I'm flipping, I'm trying to
Okay.
shift gears real quick and then come right back to where I was.
Okay. So you need a quick let me Andy, let me talk to the team and see if there's a way that I can engineer a solution to you for that. And see what I can do.
Yeah,
It
no
will
rush.
involve
And
well,
I'm
it's good
new,
though.
so, I've signed on, what, 2 days ago or yesterday?
Yeah.
When was that?
Uh-huh. A
So,
couple days ago, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I might find some workaround on my own, but today, past couple days, that has come up really often
Okay, so
for me.
people are hitting you up for data often.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're hitting me up for something, and I'm like, well, hey, yeah, let me drop that in. Look at what the average rent is
Okay.
over there. Like I had two investors call me today with deals, and I'm like, is that a decent
Uh-huh.
deal, or should I even talk to anybody about that, or can I just like ignore that call?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Let me talk to the team because I can see that being annoying, and I don't want that to be a consistent pain point. We'll probably have to repeal some of our user protection in a way to make that happen, but I'll brainstorm something with the team and why don't we talk next week and I'll see what we can do. But I'm
Oh,
happy to hear that I am really happy to hear that people are calling you and you're like second nature, go to BrightInvestor and find out. So that's news. That's music to
yeah.
my
I
ears.
mean, yeah. I mean, I'm like, that's why I got involved. So I'm like, hey,
Absolutely.
now I have a tool I can use. All right, appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. And Orlando, my man, you've been very patient. Thank you, sir.
Almost 11 years in the classroom when with over 200 plus students a year. So patience is a understatement.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine, brother.
Let's just say that you learn patience really quick when you have to be patient with kids who just don't get it.
But
Anyways,
you're
but
not my kid. I
I
can't.
love
Yeah, I
everything
gotcha.
that you're saying and some of the workflows of what Annie was talking about, open up those tabs. That was a frustration, but I remember you saying earlier that you could create reports and kind of toggle back and forth. And again, that's just not being seasoned enough to understand that we could do that. So I've been kind of getting stuck. I've been
Okay.
doing I type in an address, specific city, trying to figure out what's going on, what land is available, and just kind of reaching out to potential sellers and, getting some traction, just trying to figure out these investment tools. We find a lot. And then when we try to figure out what we can do on it, I can't find the comps based off of what has sold in that area, because they're sold based off of remodeled homes or flipped homes, but not comparing it to new construction, right? So then I go a little bit further and then I'm like, okay, there is no new construction homes in these specific townships where we're looking at, and
okay.
it makes it a little bit more challenging. So I don't know if there's anyone on this call, or maybe you can kind of guide me through, like, how can I really, without having to reach out to a realtor and figure out, because again, I want to do my own numbers first and get them verified by a realtor to make sure that we're on the same page, because what I don't want to do is go through the proper channels, get our investors to buy in on this property, get the land, submit them to permitting, all that stuff, to find out that a realtor who I don't know, right, is going to give me comps that I kind of could have just used this tool that we have at our disposal. So or maybe am I wrong? Am I missing something on how to really...
Your use case is very, it's not unique, but it is very niche, right? Is when you're doing land development, by proxy or by nature of what you're doing, you are spearheading a new development, right? You might be the first person into an area. You might be doing something before anyone else has done. You might be the trendsetter. And so having a bunch of 1970 to 1980 properties, right, with different models, different statuses, different conditions, can be very difficult to comprehend. That makes total sense. What area were you looking into most recently? Because I'll see if I can do it live for you.
Yeah, so I'll give you a perfect example. We're looking at Wayland, Michigan.
Okay.
Wayland,
Michigan.
Yeah, WALAND, Michigan. And then I guess its closest major city would be Grand Rapids.
Okay, let's take a look. See here. All right. So when we look at Wayland, let's find out. That is a really small town, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. That is really small.
Well, and then what I'll do is, if you looked on, then we didn't find anything specifically through the search deals options that were fitting our niche, but we found stuff that are on Zillow that's listed, and we're talking about 200,000 for 4 acres, 300,000 for 8 acres, like, and they're all zoned that you can put multiple units on there.
Oh wow, that's great. Okay, so let's see comp wise. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Let's start off with an appreciation check and just see. Yes, this is a very interesting area. Let's just see how homes have been moving recently. Start getting an idea on what properties are moving for overall. Okay, so a lot of volatility. Zip code average is hovering around $400,000. Okay. In this area, then, I want to get an idea of what kinds of properties. Hopefully, these are mostly single family, but we're going to check. All right, it's a very big zip code. So a lot of single family and mobile homes. Okay, so mostly single family. And those properties are primarily what? 4-bedroom. Okay, so a lot of 4-bedroom single family houses in this vicinity that are selling for about 400K.
Donato?
Now,
there's a delay from what you're talking to what we see. So we're missing stuff.
Oh, okay. My
Based on my
apologies.
screen.
So yeah, I just clicked asset type to see what kind of houses were there, and bedroom count to see what kinds of bedrooms. So these are mostly single family 4-bedroom properties. Now, the next thing I'm doing is checking out the price per square foot just to see what have things been trending for. So I'm going to take the median home price of about 400K in this area, and the median price per square foot, which is sitting right around 250 right now, that's a great start. And very quickly say a $400,000 house divided by approximately 250 a foot gives me a 1,600 square feet houses on average of what's trending in this vicinity. So 4-bedroom, 1,600 square foot house, that's very much in line with what people are seeing here. So what I'm going to do next, right, is come over here to search deals and just see what is available on the market right now that is a 4-bedroom. See if I can find anything that's available. Got one. So we'll check it out. Okay, come over here. Check it out. See what's going on. Oh wow. There you go. Okay, here we go. So we got a 4-bed property. It's a lot bigger than that though. 2,200 square feet. Has a It's interesting, like farmhouse chic vibes going on. Fully updated on the interior. Rustic floors, old trim. Looks awesome. Very, very interesting. Okay, that's a choice. Lots of acreage. This 4-bedroom property is going for about this much. Right, it's a 4-bed property. Let's see here. Questions. Historic barn. Let me see what else they got on this. Love to check it out. It's not a brand new build, unfortunately. What do I have on it? It's built in 1926, a very old property. Very old asset over here. Okay. Selling for 450. That would put its value at almost 200 a foot based on the larger square footage this asset has. Let me do an additional check here of what's been selling as well and filter this off. This. Don't know what I'm going to find here. New houses. Initial multifamily. Yeah, there's barely anything for sale. Just this one new development over here. And they've been selling over here. Okay. So they're selling all these different houses for a variety of different properties. 1,900 square feet for I'm going to take this. $340,000. I divide that out by approximately 1,900 square feet. They're sitting at about 180 a foot for that brand new one. And this one they're selling for 200 a foot. This one's for selling for 200 a foot. So they're selling for between 180 and 200 a foot on brand new construction up here. Brand new 180, 200 a foot. That is going to be hard. So if we check the income in this area as a whole, see if people can afford here. Okay, income's going up fantastically, which is great. Income's up 25%, pushing 80K. So what we get note-wise is the median home price here is pushing $400,000. A lot of the brand new constructions are being sold between 300 and 400 at about 180 to 200 a square foot. So the new construction properties are being sold at a lower price per square foot than what's on average. And we saw that some of those other properties are larger, which is probably dropping down our price per square foot. So based off what I'm seeing here and the income that people have, I would be pricing out my new single families for between that 180 to 200 a foot range in this area that we can go after, because the rent is definitely high enough. Sorry, the income is definitely high enough to support it. And when it comes to the type of things that people are doing here, well, we've had a huge shift. Okay, this is something 12 years ago everybody owned. Now you got a whole bunch of rentals that are coming in. A lot of rental units that'll come in. People who are renting out property here. Okay. What is a property renting for in this vicinity? What's a 3-bedroom property renting for? I don't have that. Okay, great. What about this way? Let me try it this way. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. 3K a month. Pull up on that report here. Let's track that rent over time. Trending up overall. Okay. Based on what other people have been able to transact at, we're seeing those. I would probably be listing. I'd still be going for 4-bedroom properties that I can sell for between 180 to 200 a foot. So that would put me on average that 1,600 square foot range. If I'm going to do an 1,800 square foot 4-bedroom house, on the low end to be conservative, I'd be pricing that at approximately 324. On the high end, I'd be pricing that approximately at that. Oh wait, so 1,800 times 200 a foot. 360, so 320 to 360 for those brand new single family developments. That's what I'm seeing here. As according to the zip code, we're seeing higher prices per square foot and higher prices overall. And the income's going up to support it. But right now, 180 to 200 a foot, 320 to 360. So you really need to be all in for like what, 200? Maybe 200, 220 for a good margin. That's probably what I'm shooting at.
Got it. Then one more question too. So we actually found a lot that is zone village commercial. Huh, never heard of this before too. The new city plan is going to start taking effect in September. There are no multi-family properties to comp within that specific area.
Sure.
So now we're looking at how do we build this multifamily, whatever it is, 3-plex, 4-plex, whatever, and then how can we use BrightInvestor to comp that potential opportunity? Because now we're talking about commercial loans, LoopNet going outside of what we could not use in BrightInvestor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I would start this back from what's your end? Is your end goal to sell it or keep it as a rental?
Would be to sell it. Well, here we go. It kind of depends on if we can pay off our investors and do a refi or burr it. But ideally, right now would be to build and sell.
This will be a little complicated, but
Yeah.
let me run it back. So when we think about a refinance, right, on a portfolio loan or something to that nature, if I refinance, I'm going to get approximately, let me take some notes here actually for this. Okay. On the back end, I'm going to get a 70 to 75% loan to value cash out refinance, right? Now, what they're going to underwrite to is at least a 1.00 DSCR. And if I had some lenders who are here tonight, you can correct me on this. At least a 1.0 DSCR, right? At a minimum, ideally higher than that. And that's going to include just PITI. So if we look at BrightInvestor and see that a 2-bedroom unit is going to rent for approximately $1,600, for example, and I have 4 of them, that means that my total rents are going to equal approximately $4,800. We're going to take that $4,800. My lender is going to ask me, is my PITI hitting a 1 DSCR? If that's my gross rent, then I need my principal, interest, tax, insurance to be less than $4,800. What that means is at today's interest rates of around 6.5% to 7%, depending on what kind of loan you're getting, 6.5% to 7% at 25% equity in your loan. If I back into that number, I could have, this is the trial and error here, a $1 million property valuation, a $1 million valuation at 25% down or left in the deal at 6.5% interest is a monthly principal and interest payment of $4,750. So if we go to an insurance broker, if an insurance broker comes to us and says, when you're done a 4-family property, brand new construction, we would insure for approximately $4,000 per year, potentially. And if we talk to the city about what tax assesses to how they analyze taxes on how they assess properties, and they say this property would be assessed at approximately $3,000 a year in taxes, then all I have to do is take my insurance and taxes of $7,000 per year and divide $7,000 by 12 months. And that gives me approximately, what is that? $550, right? Is that 550 times 12? Is my math right there? Am I completely off? 550 times 12, a little off. That's like 575. So I'm at 575 per month for my taxes and insurance. And 4750 plus 575 a month is more than 4800. So if I back that down, I need my principal and interest plus 575 a month to be less than 4800. If I try that out on a trial and error basis, approximately $800,000 property value at 25% down at 6.5% equals $3,800 in principal and interest, plus 575 a month in taxes and insurance. What that gives me is approximately, what is it, just under 4,400 in PITI. And I have total rents of 4,800. So I know that based on a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance DSCR loan, I'd be able to refinance out at a $800,000 valuation or $200,000 per unit on the back end, and would be able to keep my equity in. So the question is, can I buy land, develop the property, and get it leased for less than $800,000 times 0.75, which in this case, right, would be $600,000. So if you can buy land and develop an entire fourplex for $600K, math says you should be able to refinance it out at $800,000 a year in a DSCR loan, pay out your investors, and keep it as a rental. I promise that would be complicated.
Got it.
One thing really quick.
That's how I do it.
Wanted to point out, I was looking at something else. The 1600, if it's times 4, it's 6400. If it's 3, it's 4800.
Thank you. So even better. I totally forgot that. Thank you. So even better. So now we just adjust, right? So that means our valuation goes even higher. So I need that. So that means what I need at that point, the property could be worth a heck of a lot more, right? So let's try $1.5 million. Okay, nope, that's too high. 125. Now that works. 1.25 million at 25% down at 6.5% interest gives us a total of about $6,000, or sorry, 5,900 in PI, plus $600 in taxes and insurance. Right, that gives us just about 6,500. So now our property's gonna be worth 1.25 million, and we can still refi out of it at 75% LTV. 1.25 million, that's gonna be approximately $900,000. So can we buy land, develop a property for fourplex for less than? Can we be into it for less than 200K a unit? And that'll give you some margin. So, of course, that requires talking to the city about tax assessments. That requires getting insurance quote what they're going to be able to do, and that requires being able to buy and develop land for all land for less than 200K a door. Assuming you can do that, you can refi out your investors, or at the worst, sell the property, be all in for 800 to 900,000, and sell it for 1.2 million, and get into a nice little 30% budget.
Can you explain to me your 25% down? I'm a little bit, I guess I'm misunderstanding.
25% down in this case is actually 25% you're leaving in the deal when you do a cash out refinance.
Got it. So with the new evaluation, again, just hypothetically speaking, it's 1.2. We're leaving 25% of equity in the property, and then we're going to take the remaining 75%, pay off our investors, and then just
correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So what we're basically going back, we're working backwards on the map of what kind of loan we can get. And so I can bring this to a lender and say, hey, here's what I'm planning to do. Can you confirm this loan product? Well, say, yes, you can achieve $6,400 a month in gross rents. We'll lend to you at a 1 DSCR, no problem. Which means then you can run them through their math and they can say, yes, okay, great, go to the city, taxes line up, okay, great, get insurance broker, okay, great, that lines up. And you go from there.
And then one final question. I heard someone say something I was like, can you a DSCR a loan to yourself?
As in your personal name?
Yeah. Someone said that they could take out a DSCR loan, use it for themselves to rent out a property, because they're renting out their house and they can use whatever loan that power is just to pay the rent because they're renting out their primary residence.
So they took a loan out on their primary residence and took out more than they needed and are using the debt to pay their rent.
If that's what I'm understanding there correctly, sounds confusing.
If in that case, yeah, once you take the loan out, you can use the proceeds for whatever you want. They're just lending. They're just giving you the loan based on the asset that's paying the principal or making the debt obligation. So if I want to take a $300,000 loan out against an asset that's paying or meaning that 1% DSCR, the lender doesn't care when I used to buy it. And technically, they shouldn't, right? But when I do my refinance out, they give me the cash. I can use that however I want.
Got it. Awesome. Man,
All right,
Donato,
guys.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I hope that would added some value. I got some things to read back to the team on things we could do better or things that we can improve upon. So I appreciate that. And besides that, you have a great rest of your guys' day. I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, reach out to me.
Oh, awesome. Thank you again,
Yeah.
All
Donato.
right, everybody.
Thank you so
You
much.
got it. Of course.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.